Namaskara. So just before I get into the topic, I just want to tell you what I am doing, right? To set the context. Okay, what I do, I am trying to make brightest in our campuses to become entrepreneurs, right? Whoever is the brightest in colleges who are still studying, I am trying to make them entrepreneurs in this country. That's what I am doing. And the question is, why I do what I am doing, right? So ivattu we have created around 40 startups in last 20 months. I will talk about some of them very, very interestingly, right? And all these 40 students are still studying. They are still in final year. They are not, probably 6 of them passed out very recently in August. Rest of them are still studying. 60% of my entrepreneurs are girl students, right? So those who are in second or third year, right? Girl students. And all of them, between 40 companies, they have filed for 50 patents from USPTO, right? Just to tell you the depth of the companies. And all these are still the students, right? So this pretty much defined the journey and what I'm going to talk about. That's where I wanted to say. First, why I do what I do, right? There are few examples, right? So, if I ask you which are the global companies you admire, depending on where you are coming from, you will say Google, you will say Facebook, you will say Microsoft, you will say Dell, some of you may say Qualcomm, some of you may say Rhombus, right? So these are the kind of companies that we take, right? If I ask you which are the globally competitive companies. There are two things about all these companies. One though, all these companies were created in the campus by the students, right? By the students. Second one, anyone wants to take a guess? That's okay. That's not my interest, right? I want them to complete the graduation. That's not the example, right? Now, most of those companies are headed by Indians, or most of their employees are from India, right? Agree? Right? My question, this is the question that I asked. If companies can be created in campuses, and if Indians can go and rule those companies, why are we not creating those companies in India was the question that I want to address, right? And that was the first reason why I wanted to do that. Second thing, how many of you know what a unicorn is here? Right. So unicorn is a company which has $1 billion in valuation. India has around 110 plus unicorns as we speak. Over next 2 years, we are expected to have 250 unicorns, and we are the fastest unicorn growing country, right? We are becoming fastest unicorn growing country in the world. My guess is, all these are happening without our students innovating. All these are happening without we building the technologies, right? What if our students start working on the global problems, right? Probably this 250 will become 500. And what motivates me is, each unicorn that you create in this country is actually you are ensuring that such a unicorn is not created in any other part of the world, which means the economic center will shift to India, right? And probably the numbers that we are talking about in terms of 5 trillion or whatever the numbers that we are talking about, right, will look ridiculously underrated if some of our students will start becoming an entrepreneur. That's the reason why I am doing what I am doing. But the most important is, why is important? I did mention about the value it creates for the country, right? Unicorns are good, etc. But there are also other very, very important things that I wanted to talk about. First one, right? Normally, I believe, how many of you are outside Bengaluru here? How many of you are outside Bengaluru here? Right. There is, Government of Karnataka has a platform called Beyond Bengaluru, right? And Government of India wants to say that take the development beyond the metros, right? Take it to the rural area, take it to the cities. Ivattu Hubli Engineering College al navu ene madidro, at the end of the day, student wants to come back and build his career in Bangalore, yes or no? Right? Or Raichur, right? Whatever you do, at the end of the day, he wants to come back and then work in the same company, opening the Excel sheet or opening the PowerPoint slide. You're all forgetting all the great things that the people teach here, right? He may be an outstanding student in history, still he will go there as as a computer operator, he will just type whatever it is, right? So while We talk about all the great things in the academics. In fact, I am from the industry. I am the most unfit guy in this room, right? I don't even have a master's here. Ellaru PhD avar jothe matarta idini, right? I am the most unfit one. I am not from academics, right? I am an entrepreneur and I am just investing in startups. That's what I do. But whenever I go and talk to academicians, they say we need to bridge the gap with industry. That's completely wrong. I will tell you with lot of confidence, right? It's industry who needs to bridge with you. You are teaching them things which industry can't even use. ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಂಪನಿಗಳು? If you go and look at what all the great startups that we are talking about, look at it. They are doing Excel sheets, they are doing PowerPoint, they are doing logistics management, they are doing lot less valuable job than some of the, ನಮ್ಮ ಹಳ್ಳಿಲಿರೋ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರೋ ಜನಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಕಡಿಮೆ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. This is what's happening there, right, in the startup. Let me come back and fix some of these issues, right, as I speak. Right? So, coming back to the question, right? So, the way, if this is what I say, right? If you create startups, right? Dharwadalli, if you 10 students before they pass out create a startup, right? By the time they pass out, they would have hired another 20 people. There are 300 people, and this is a startup which is going to be fundable, which means they are invariably doing a cutting edge job, right? Company shuru madidane, before he passes out, there are already 300 people hired. Probably he will have 3,000 people in next 6 months. Where will he go out? He has to stay back in Dharwad, right? So entrepreneurship is the secret sauce for making sure that talent stays back in our smaller towns, right? Is the one more reason why I thought what I am doing was very, very relevant. Now, the next most important thing was why colleges, right? I'm just telling you the journey, right? I told you why entrepreneurship, why colleges, right? We speak a lot about interdisciplinary innovation, right? No industry in India, right, can manage an interdisciplinary industry innovation like even a small college can do. Where are the talent, right? College hodre obba, even if you take anything, right? So there is someone who understands journalism, there is someone who understands science, there is someone who understands marketing, athwa engineering hodre someone who can do mechanical, electrical, electronics, computer science. All of them are under the same roof, right? Students, it's easy for them to go and connect and do the interdisciplinary innovation, which is extremely important from the perspective of value creation, right? So outside colleges, it's very, very hard to build the interdisciplinary innovation, right? And finally, the talent, right, which is the backbone of the world, right? So navella ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ ಅಂದರೆ we are creating great talent, right? Earlier people used to go out to US, right, after their degree. Today they will work for the companies from US who are set up their operations in here. But value is still captured there. Of course, we are very happy that the tax collection has got better, a lot more people are getting employed. But what pains me is top 10% of the students or top 30% of the talent is not working on anything even remotely connected to the innovation that helps the country, right? This is the reason why I thought focusing on entrepreneurship is extremely important. And if there is something which I can tell you, right, last 5-7 years, right, we were always entrepreneurial, we were always entrepreneurial, we were always aspirational, but last 5-7 years made us believe that we can do a lot of things in India, and that's the reason why I did what I'm doing. Next most important thing, right, I want to connect the entrepreneurship back to the Indian knowledge system and just say why I believe Indian students not only create 250 unicorns, probably will create 2,500 unicorns if we leverage our Indian knowledge systems. ನಾನು ಹೇಳಿದೆ, there are certain things that comes to us in the naturally, right? ನಾನು ಇವಾಗ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಹೊತ್ತು ಮುಂದೆ, right? So we want to go and say that we were very good in plastic surgery. When we have examples of Anandavardhana with us, right? Even today world has not produced someone like Anandavardhana. Even today world has not produced someone like Chanakya. Even today world has not produced someone like Bharata Muni, even after so many centuries. Why are we not celebrating these heroes? Go and look at our heroes, right? So in fact, this is not about breaking the system, right? So India by default always celebrated someone who goes beyond what the dharma thought at that point of time and redefined what is right for the society. Namda Shruti, Smruti, Purana, if you just look at this, right? So there are a lot of stuff that people transcend within the boundaries of Shruti. Rama redefined the value of, let's say, Ekapatni Vratastha, right? Before that, you will not find anyone who celebrated being a single, Ekapatni Vratastha. Krishna comes and changes that, but he changes for good. He says that just the unidimensional thinking is not going to happen, and we celebrate Krishna, right? We celebrate Buddha. He came and, identified some of the challenges we had. Though what he spoke about Vedanta, then he spoke about what are the problems we had in our practices that day, right? We always celebrated people who transcend, people who disrupt, right? What an entrepreneur. In your opinion, who is an entrepreneur? Just, I want to hear some answers. Who is an entrepreneur in your mind? Disruptor. Okay, very good. Disrupts what? Existing system. Okay, right. Then, willing to take risk. Very good answer. Then, one who creates. Disruptor. Right? Right? If you look at like that, right? One who creates a lot of value, right? One who takes the, one who stands up and takes the responsibility, right? Are not all this, is not Shankaracharya I don't want to ridicule Shankaracharya by saying that he is just an entrepreneur. He is probably 10,000 times better than the best entrepreneur that we can have. But is not that what he did? Right? Is not that what Krishna did? Is not that what Buddha did? Whether we like it or not, is not that what even Gandhiji did? Right? So, India always celebrated people who go out and take that risk. That is there in our DNA. In fact, I run another not-for-profit trust associated with my fund, where we are trying to prove that the entrepreneurial DNA is ingrained in us. Right? Even in our worst times in 60s, you go and listen to all Hindi songs, they are so aspirational. They believe that we have a great future, and where there is no way in which you can look at the ground and believe that we had a great future. Right? So, entrepreneurial DNA is ingrained in us. How is it coming in? In my opinion, that is coming up because of our temples, because of our shrutis, because of our culture, because of our tradition. Right? We are the only culture who celebrate value creation. Lakshmi is our goddess. Lakshmi is our goddess. Right? And we say Lakshmi is our energy. What we say, that if you have an energy, the energy should be with the right guys. Right? That's what all our Purana says. Right? One the olle energy, that should be with the right people. If the energy reaches right people, it will do good for the world. So what we are going and telling the students is, if you are smarter, generate wealth, become an entrepreneur, generate wealth, it's your responsibility because you are blessed with that energy. Right? So look at our Purusharthas, Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha. Right? We say Artha and Kama are good as long as you have Dharma as your baseline. Right? Which culture teaches these things, right? That's what our culture is teaching us. So this is what we are trying to do, going and telling students, right? This is what I want everyone to do. Go and teach our value system, right? Just go and tell how important Yajna was and how Yajna was created, right? You can't have a better entrepreneurial experience than this. So what we are trying to say is, these Sanatanic concepts are the ones which will help us to go and create those whatever the number of unicorns that we are talking about, right? And this is actually getting translated. I will give you some example, right? A student came to me, right? There are a few examples that I will quote, right? Just give me 2-3 minutes to listen to these examples, very fascinating examples, right? A student who loved Kannada literature. She loved Chandasu, right? She came and said, Suresh, sir, I want to build a startup in Chandasu, right? I'm talking about unicorns, right? We are investors, right? We are investing 2 crore at the idea stage and believe that the company will get to 1,000 crore in next 5-10 years. That's the expectation that I have. I'm an investor. I'm a hardcore investor at heart, right? As much as I want to do that, right? So she came and said, then I said, how do you do that? This girl, what she has done is, she is saying, I will use the concept of Chandasu to redefine the way the lyrics are written for the global market. Right? I will use the concepts of meters. I will use the concept of just the sound, right, to redefine the music industry, right? Another student came and said he wants to use Indian classical music, right? We had done of course, we had called for the applications around Indian aesthetics, right? He came and said, I want to use the concept of Indian ragas to redefine the way ad jingles are written, right? Which will have a lot more emotional value to the people. Right? This is an example, right? There are students who are coming to me and just just using the latest technology to disrupt the way lending works. There is a student who is working on under collateralized crypto financing protocol, and what he is using some of the concepts which are spoken about Chanakya in terms of the lending mechanism, right? Who should get the lending, etc., etc. Right? There is a team which is working on predicting the weather in all new way, right? So we know how many of us like the weather report, right? It says whenever it rains, it won't rain. That's a problem that we have, right? Here are the students who figured out our ancestors were a lot more smaller, they were smarter, they were looking into the cloud movement, they were looking at what happened in the previous year, they look at the history of the data and then predict the weather a lot better. Okay, that's what the company is doing, right? They are just using our aesthetic systems to predict the weather report. The reason why I'm saying these examples is, these are the examples, trust me, while the concepts are borrowed by Indian aesthetics, our Indianism, the opportunity is global. And these are the kind of companies that are going to create a lot of value. These are the disruptors. Right? I told you about 60% of the girls who are working with me. There are girls who are working on how to improve the lifetime of a cattle. Right? There are people who are working on this. So all these students motivate me to believe that, one is we have that entrepreneurial energy, and second one is a lot of our Sanatanic concepts are extremely relevant in the Indian context. But let me come back and talk about some of the challenges, right? So, I mean, in the interview, what is the best question that people ask? Or what is the question that all your soft skill trainers ask you to practice? What is the one question? What's one question? Exactly, right? Whether good or bad, right? In fact, in the previous session he was talking about, that was never an issue with us. We had clarity. Either, I mean, for all the bad things about the caste system which I hate, we had clarity as to what I should do in my life. Right? Madivalad Machaya andre gotagate, Jedra Dasimaya andre gotagate, we know what we do. And when we say Pravara, we know what is that we know. Right? This is what we knew. We never had the problem of identity crisis. But today, someone expert has to come and tell us what I should do after my 16 years of graduation, or many times 18 years of graduation. Right? The reason is, right, while NEP and other things are trying to change, I think there is a fundamental flaw, right? I mean, that's where I'm coming to you. I'm an outsider. I'm not part of the academic, so I can say anything and get away with this, right? So that's the advantage that I have, right? So the point is, when there is a student, there are three options he has in my mind. Either he can become an entrepreneur, either he can become a researcher, or he can go and find a job. Any other options? Assuming being unemployed, no, I don't want to get political. Being unemployed is out of the question. These are the three options that we have, right? The point is, if entrepreneurship is going to address all these three challenges, right? My belief is that entrepreneurship can fund our research, right? I'm not only talking about, I mean, I know a lot of pure researchers who believe that their research should not be commercialized, right? Rightly so. There are people who are like this. I respect that, right? But still, even those researchers will be funded by entrepreneurship, right? Your job issue, your employability will be solved by entrepreneurship, right? Entrepreneurship can solve your problem of all the three classes of the people if you just focus right on the entrepreneurship, is what I believe in, right? So, now, coming back to the 3 points that I mentioned, right? So, but the challenge is, most of the students, right, if you look at our curriculum, right, what do we do for job placement today? In the last 6 months of his education, we'll get an expert, right, and expect him to do a magic which we didn't do for the first 3 years, right? And most of the time, I mean, we spoke about, it's not that they are successful. I had a lot of my friends who were running companies around skill development, etc., etc. Most of them are closed. It's not that they have delivered the value. The reason is, we are not installing the purpose in the life of the students. That's where the fundamental problems that I have, right? In fact, we created a company called Seminar Room to address this, right? So there are three things that students should know, right? 3 things that a student should know. What are the research that can happen? If I study this subject, what are the research opportunities that I have? If I study this subject, what are the career opportunities that I have? If I study this subject, what are the innovation and what are the kind of companies that we can create? If he knows these three things, and I will add a layer, if he knows about these three things from the perspective of Indian knowledge system, right, with the background of IKS that we have in, from the perspective of our own tradition and knowledge systems, probably, right, we will not have people who are confused as to what they should do at the end of 4 years. Right? The option is very simple. If you like the subject, so read so well so that you will become employable. The problem happens today, even if you study history well, there are jobs available in the market. Let me assure you, there are jobs available in the, there are a lot of startups are trying to hire archaeologists today. Right? There are different reasons. If you study any subject properly, you will become employable. The problem is you will not study the subject properly, so you will end up getting confused as to what are the opportunities available. Right? And the second point that I want to do, right? So, first point, right? So, leverage digital, right? I'm not sure how easy it is to go and impact the curriculum, etc. Invariably, what I have seen is when you introduce a special subject, that is something which people take because they can get easy grants. Other than that, I haven't seen much of the value from the academics perspective. My suggestion is leverage digital, right? Leverage digital, be open to getting the best of the experts in the country to tell them, right, to tell them on why we were extremely good in chemistry at one point of time, accept that we have lost out on the way, and give them the confidence that we can go back and take that position, right, where we were, right. That is possible if you know where the industry is, right. So as much as you tell them what we were, give them the confidence that we can go back to that, right. That's possible if you leverage digital today. One is that. Second one, my sincere request to, especially, I'm sure some of you will like me for saying this, do less, right? It's almost like what we have learnt is, in fact, sir, one of the problems that I have in the MBA colleges is it's very, very difficult for students to become entrepreneurs. Reason is, the whole approach has been to add more things to the syllabus, right? You keep adding more things to the syllabus, keep giving them more information, but unfortunately, most of them, when they are studying MBA, they can't even internship is 2 weeks or 2 months of notional stuff, which will not help any company to leverage them, right? My suggestion is, if possible, if a person wants to become an entrepreneur, all that you need to do is give him the freedom, right? Don't try to teach him entrepreneurship, right? It's as much as we would love to teach the entrepreneurship even from the experts, etc., probably that may not be required for the business that he is trying to do, right? All that we need to do is do less, right? Do less of the work when a person wants to become an entrepreneur. If he has realized that he wants to go and become a sales guy, stop teaching him sales, let him go and do the internship. That is a lot more useful, right? which you have. And if a person wants to be a research, give him all the support, right? So, as much as as much as I want to see entrepreneurs, I also want to see great researchers, people who are coming out with great research, give them all the support, and more importantly, for the faculty, make them spend lot less time evaluating papers and spending probably more time doing reading and researching, right? So these are the stuff that I would recommend from the perspective of being an entrepreneur, right? So again, excuse me if I had said anything wrong, because I'm not an academician. I'm only giving you a perspective of what I have seen as an outsider and working with a lot of colleges. Thank you. Thanks. Yes.